Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen. Guys, welcome to your daily news channel, your daily Rangers news channel, your team every single day, guys. And how do you get that news every single day? How do you make sure you do not miss out on this great content? Well, you need to make sure you hit that sub, ring that notification bell, set it to all so it springs upon your mobile device or your computer. And obviously, please give this video a like. It does help out. Now, today I dropped a video about a player that Rangers were linked with, a guy called Kieran Dow from Norwich. If you haven't seen that video, please go back and check it out after watching this video, obviously. We're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, the summer. Now, this is going to be a major summer for Glasgow Rangers, a huge summer of rebuilding, and it has to be a rebuild. It's not a revamp. A revamp doesn't work. A retool, no, it's a rebuild. It's got to be a major rebuild. You know, you looked at that team on Sunday and look, you can say it's an overreaction to the fact that we've only just lost Aberdeen, but it's not just that, is it? It's the fact we're so far behind Celtic. It's about the fact this season that these players have, on a number of occasions, let us down repeatedly. I think at times, had we been playing better teams in the SPL, they could have taken advantage and actually beaten us. The fact that obviously, Dundee United came with no intention of even trying to play football against us. Hibs tactics were absolutely dreadful. But what you're surprised you've got Lee Johnson as your manager. I genuinely think that this is a team that needs a major overhaul. There's a number of players who've been here far too long now. Players who are here, for the 55 title and even before that. And players can go stale. You know yourself from working and going in a job. If you're staying at one place for too long, if you stay in one position for too long, if you stay in one job for too long, you go stale and you don't develop, you don't move forward, and you just kind of turn off, don't you? You kind of just go through the motions day in, day out. And I think on Sunday we saw a number of players who, for me, again, just went through the motions, turned up, went out on the field, did what they thought was enough, but it wasn't enough, was it? It was shocking. So we're going to have a look through the squad. We're going to look at players we would keep, players we wouldn't keep, and talk about why we keep them and why we wouldn't keep them. And I'd love to get your comments as well on who you would keep out of this present squad. I'm going to make a list whilst I'm doing this. I'm going to obviously put that list up there at the end of the video to see who it is we should keep out of this squad. Now, obviously, I think this is going to be a major summer, and I don't think it will be just 4 to 5 players that will come in this summer. I think, obviously, that's how many players Rangers will sign to pay money for. I think there could be another 4 or 5 coming on Bosman deals. Now, if you add to that the fact, obviously, as well, that Michael Beale's talked about wanting to slim the squad down as well, you could have a situation where that actually genuinely could really happen, and that could leave us with a squad of about 23, 24 players, to go forward into the SPL season next year, and obviously towards the Champions League qualifiers. Well, let's obviously start at the back. Let's start with our goalkeepers. So these are the goalkeepers currently under contract at Glasgow Rangers: Alan McGregor, Robbie McCrory, Kieran Wright, and John McLaughlin. So are those goalkeepers, obviously, Kieran Wright is out of contract in the summer. I think, given the fact that he has had very little role to play, given the fact that obviously we've got McCrory, I think we'll say goodbye to Wright. I think, look, Alan McGregor has been a fantastic servant for the club. I get that. But, he has really started to show his age this year. He's not coming for crosses. He's not commanding his area. There's a number of goals that I think we could have avoided had we had a younger, quicker goalkeeper. It's time for Alan to go. It's time for him to retire. So, again, I think, it's time for him to go. I would give Robbie McCrory an opportunity to play. I think McCrory is worth keeping hold of. So out of these 4 goalkeepers, realistically, I think only Robbie McCrory is worth hanging on to. McLaughlin, I think, has proved singularly on a number of occasions that he's not up to the job, not even as a backup. So I think, obviously with McCrory and the possible, obviously, arrival, obviously, of Jack Butland, that gives us at least 2 decent keepers there. We may need to go out and get a third, perhaps as a third stringer, or, one of the youth team keepers could step up into that third place on the squad. So out of those 4 keepers, I'm keeping only Robbie McCrory. Okay, let's go to the defence now. Now, I think within this defence, you've got a few players obviously out of contract, a few players entering the last years of their contract. So obviously, James Tavernier, we keep. I think Tav is good going forward. He comes up with goals at the right occasions. Yes, I think he is suspect defensively at times, but he is, a Rangers player. He is a quality player, in my opinion. I know a lot of you don't agree with that. I think as well, a change of formation, going to 3 at the back and using Tav as a wing back might actually aid him. So, yeah, Tav, I think, stays. Revamp, there's a lot of uncertainty about Revamp. The guy's been out injured a lot. When he has been back, Michael Beale hasn't wanted to use him. He's used Borna ahead of him. There's all these talk about him wanting to go back to Turkey. realistically, yes, I would like to keep Ridvan. I think he's a quality player, but at the same time, if a bid came in for him of say £4 million from one of the Turkish clubs, I wouldn't be adept to turning it down. I'd be happy to take that money and then use that money to invest in player personnel. Helander, I think it's time for him to go. He's out of contract. He has spent more time in a moon boot than the NASA space astronauts have done this year. I think it's time the Helander moves on. He's a great defender, don't get me wrong. He was great during that 55 season, but no, Helander for me has to go. Goldson, we keep Goldson. Goldson, I think, has been, his importance to this team has been shown in these last few games since he's been out. He's the organizer at the back. He's the voice at the back. 12 out of our 13 clean sheets have come when he's in the team. We concede over a goal a game when he's not in the team. We have missed Connor Goldson, and I know he has his detractors at the club, but for me, it's Goldson and another for next season. John Suter, I would keep as well. I think he's made development since he started to get fit. I think he's really moved forward. I think he is, a good quality player and would be a good backup defender. I wouldn't start him next season. I'd bring someone else in to play alongside Goldson. I'd have Suter as a backup. Ben Davies, I think it's time for him to go. He has a mistake in him. He looks shell-shocked. He makes some really stupid errors. He doesn't look up for the fight a lot of the time. I just think, and it's not even just in the Celtic game or the Aberdeen game, in a number of games this year, even against some of the lesser teams in the SPL, he has looked poor and had a mistake into him. And if he hasn't got Goldson next to him, he panics. He can't step up. If we can get 3-4 million for him in the summer, I think it's well worth shipping Davis out. Borna Barisic obviously is out of contract next season, so a decision has got to be made this season on what is happening with Borna Barisic. Personally, again, I think if an offer comes in for him, again we sell him. We sell him on. I think he may want to go back to Croatia, given the fact that obviously he's started a family. His wife's just given birth. He went back to Croatia to give birth, or his wife did. So yeah, I think Barisic is time for him to move on. Leon King, I'd keep, come through our system. We need those players, those homegrown players. So yeah, King stays. Devine, I think no-brainer, he stays as well. So defense-wise, I'm going to keep Tav, Ridvan, Goldson, Suter, King, and Devine. That'd be the players I would keep from the defense. So let's go to our midfield next. Now, you look at a number of these midfield players, and you know what? There's some good players here. There's some average players here, and there's some downright awful players here. John Lundstrom has to go for me. Again, he's out of contract in 2024. Apparently no talk of new deals yet. We cannot be sitting here in 12 months' time having the same discussion that we are having about these 8 players, about him, about about these players that are coming up for the end of their contracts. Borna, Lundstrom, Roof, for example. We need to either we need to ship them out. That's the simple of it. Lundstrom is a poor player. He slows things down. He passes it sideways, backwards. He's like playing with a handbrake on. So Lundstrom for me goes. Sorry, Victoria, but I think it's time Hadji moved on. I don't think Beale rates him. I don't think Beale fancies him as a player. He's been fit since January, yet he's hardly featured at all. I think he's a bit too lightweight for the SPL. I think, given the fact he's been linked with a number of signings, Gala, Mönchengladbach, Celta Vigo, Leeds, Villa. I think there's money there to be had. And again, we need to raise money for player acquisition. Ryan Jack, I think it's time to call on Ryan's career as well. Ryan is, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. Ryan is a very good player and he's a very talented player. But the problem with Ryan Jack is the fact that he's constantly injured. And when we need him, like this Sunday, he's injured. And he misses far too many games for me. So do we really want to be sitting here again in 12 months, talking about if he's fit, if he's fit, if he's fit? No, we don't. So for me, it's time for Ryan Jack to go. Stephen Davis, I think, should retire. I think, again, bad injury, end of his time here. So I think it's probably time that he was to move on as well. Obviously, Todd Cantwell, no-brainer. We keep Todd Cantwell. Ravi Matondo, I think we keep as a squad player. Again, I know it's an expensive squad player, but you really can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We do need to retain some players for this squad. So Matondo, I'd keep on for now. Kamara, I'd sell. I think he's been out of favour ever since that Viaplay Cup final. Michael Beale hasn't had him anywhere near the team. Yes, he's been on the bench, but he's hardly ever been used. I think we can get a couple of million for Kamara. Again, not as much as Nice wanted to pay for him in the summer, but the end of the day, we paid 50 grand for him. And if we can sell him on for £2 million, that's a decent, tidy profit. Scott Wright, I think it's time he went as well. Has never really done anything at the club. So for me, yeah, time for Scott Wright to go. Offerball, it's a sad what's happened to the lad. That he's had those heart issues. That is obviously continually being investigated by consultants. I think we keep him on the staff, but we just take him off the playing squad. And once he's fit enough to do something with his life, then we allow him to move on. We do have a duty of care for him, of course we do. But so for me, yeah, it's time for him to go as well. Arfield, I would give Arfield a 1-year contract. Like I said, we need those homegrown players. I know he's Canadian, but he does count as the homegrown. He can come off the bench and make an impact. He is still a very fit lad. Rangers through and through. You do need players with that Rangers DNA still to educate those new signings. So yeah, for me, Arfield, I'd keep him. I'd give him a year's contract. Nicholas Raskin is again a no-brainer. He has to stay. Quality player. Alex Lowry, again, I'd like to see him have more of an opportunity in the last few games of the season, and obviously next season. I think he's another quality player. So Alex Lowry for me stays. Malik Tillman, how do you solve a problem like Malik? Yes, he's a very talented player. Now, there is arguments on both sides for Malik Tillman. Obviously, 5 million, you speculate to accumulate. He comes in, he does well for a couple of seasons. We can probably sell him on for 15 to 20 million pounds. But the other side, he doesn't show up against Celtic. He hasn't played well. He really does need to have 2 good old firm games. He was poor. He wasn't poor. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He was okay on Sunday. Set up some chances. Not his fault that we haven't got a forward that could hit a cow's arse with a banjo. But at the end of the day, I think Tillman stays. I think you have to take the risk on him. You've got to speculate to accumulate. You do miss on some, yeah. And I know it's an expensive miss, but to be honest with you, £5 million in this modern game is nothing. 5 million is nothing in today's football. If he was a youth player in England coming through, showing the promise he was showing, you'd be looking at 15 to 20 million for him easily. So, yeah, I think we keep Tillman. So midfielders, I'm keeping Cantwell, Matondo, Raskin, Arfield, Lowry, and Tillman. Okay, let's go on to our strikers. What a terrible bunch. Now, Tom Lawrence is included in the strikers. He can also play in midfield, so I'm going to keep Tom Lawrence. I think once he comes back from injury, he will be like a new signing. Definitely worth keeping hold of. Antonio Cholak. For me, not a priority departure, but if someone was to come in and offer us 3 million for him, 2 million for him, I'd take it. I don't rate him. I don't think he's got a future at the club. I don't think he's going to score you 25 goals a season. I just don't see him as a Beale type player either. When Beale's had the opportunity to use him, he's picked Alfie ahead of him. I just don't see him having a future at the club. So I think Cholak goes. Kent, I think, is off. He's gone. He'll go in the summer to Burnley. Good luck to him. Alfie, I think it's time he went as well. Look, I'm going to say something contentious here. Alfie's never been prolific. Alfie's biggest number of goals in a league season is 18. That's it. For a leading striker, that's not great. You need your leading striker to get you 25 to 30 goals a season in the SPL, and Alfie hasn't done that. So, yeah, Alfie goes. Kamar Roof, again, he's entering the last year of his deal. I don't know how the hell we're going to sell him. Mr. Glass, the guy gets a grass stain on his shirt and he has to have a month out. Pulls a hamstring trying to put his boxer shorts on in the morning. Tears an Achilles tendon putting his socks on. I don't know how we sell him. I think we may have to even sit on his contract and just release him next summer. But for me, again, he needs to go. He's just too unreliable, always injured, proper sick note. Fashion Sakala. Wow, Fashion Sakala. What do you say about Fashion Sakala? Well, I think you say, first of all, that his numbers are good. His assists and goals are good, but he's got no composure. When he thinks, he struggles. I mean, if he doesn't have to think, he's a great player. But when he thinks, he struggles. Some of the misses this season, the miss in the cup final, the miss against Aberdeen. Any player with a little bit of class, a little bit of composure puts that ball in the back of the net. Let's take Sunday, for example. Sakala's clean through on goal. Lift the ball over the keeper, go round the keeper, do something. Don't hit it straight at him, which is what Sakala did. He was poor on Sunday as well, kept being offside, falling over his own feet. At times he does that. On the other hand, he's quick, he's speedy, he can have an impact. His numbers are decent. I think he's a squad player. He's not a star. I mean, that's the first thing to say. Fashion Sakala is not a starter. He is not someone you put in your first 11 if you've got a good team and you are picking your best team to win a game. So for me, Sakala stays, but he stays as a squad player, not a starter. Well, guys, we've gone through that squad. We've got rid of a lot of players. So looking at my list here, I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 10, 13, 15 players I am keeping. That would be about 9 to 10 players coming in, which I think would be about right. So who am I keeping? Let's just go over that list again. So I'm keeping Robbie McCrory. I'm keeping James Tavernier. I'm keeping Ridvan Yilmaz, Connor Goldson, John Suter, Leon King, Adam Devine, Todd Cantwell, Ravi Matondo, Nicholas Raskin, Scotty Arfield, Alex Lowry, Malik Tillman, Tom Lawrence, and Fashion Sakala. That's who I'm keeping. Guys, let me know if you disagree with any of those, anyone I've missed that you would keep off that list, or would you sell even more of the players? But I do think this is going to be a fundamental summer for Rangers. It needs to be a rebuild. A revamp is not good enough. We are so far behind that lot from across the city. We need to catch back up, and that's going to be done through, I think, trusting Michael Beale in the summer to go and get the players in that he can. You know, if Raskin and Cantwell are any sort of judgment of why, you know, he is a type of player he's going to bring in, he clearly has a good eye for a player. You look at some of the players that he helped bring in under Steven Gerrard, you know, your Joe Aribos, your Calvin Bassies of the world, great players that went on to obviously raise a lot of money for the club and do well for the club. So for me, Beale has got to be trusted over the summer. We rebuild. We've got to make a major rebuild. A couple of keepers, central defender for me, a left back, a central midfield player, a winger, and at least a couple of strikers as well to add to that list. That's what we've got to do this summer. I want to see Rangers go out there, be ambitious, push it, really get some decent players in to really push Celtic and obviously also go into the Champions League next season and make a good fist of it and not be an embarrassment like this season. Well, like I said, that's my list. That's my ideas. Feel free to disagree, guys. Feel free to come back at me. Don't mind talking with you, reasoning with you, as long as obviously we're having a sensible argument and not a name-calling argument. I know obviously Victoria might not agree with some of my assertions there of players I would keep, players I would sell on. I know she'd be very disappointed to see her future husband, Yanis Hadji, leave. But I think, you know, again, if we get the money for him, it's well worth it. We've got to raise money through player sales as well, I think, to supplement the transfer budget this summer. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content. If you have, go and check out some of the other content and please give this video a like. And if you don't want to miss out on that daily content, your daily Rangers news, your daily Rangers fix, you want your team every single day, then hit the sub, ring the notification so you get all the latest from Glasgow Rangers Nation. Well, thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, fellow Rangers fans. I'm about to speak to you again tomorrow here on this channel. Thank you so much. Catch you tomorrow.